Hey, what's up, everyone? Charles, Bam here today. We're actually going to talk about some stage stats here. We got Liquid Last, shouts to Last here, as you can see on his Twitter, putting up some very useful information on the Smash World Tour stage usage. So this is going to be pretty much everything on stream. So there is, obviously, the whole Smash World Tour was streamed, like the group stages and all that stuff. But there's
Yep.
also stuff from the LCQ, like the tail end of the LCQ, essentially.
Yeah, man. And it's like it's pretty interesting, right? I mean, obviously we all hear all the time, Pokemon Stadium 2. Like the people are always on that stage no matter what. That is the ultimate starter. But it's I think more and more as people get better at this game and start to recognize the pros and cons of these stages, I'd like to see some changes, right? I'm sure that some people have found there's been a lot of circumstances where people are like on that side platform, right? Or they get that pineapple, unfortunately, right? Or they have to deal with the edge guard where they can't really hug the lip of the stage as well as they usually would want to because of fear of just getting caught under the stage and all these kind of things. And as people get better at edge guarding, I do think that people will start to recognize that as great as PS2 is, there may be some issues there, and you may want to switch it up for the sake of your characters.
Yeah, and PS2 is a lot bigger as well. I think it's interesting that we have a small battlefield as well, but as like the second played list or second played most stage. But I really
Mhm.
want to harp on Lylat and Yoshi's. These are two stages that have been very controversial, obviously, and even this the title of this video is Should We Ban These Stages? I've always been on the train of banning Lylat. I've never been a fan of this stage, especially in Smash 4. It was a really bad stage. It moved in Smash 4, so at least in Ultimate it doesn't move. But we had the stage legal while it moved, and it would like the ledge literally would not work, and we still did not ban this stage. To this day, I am tight about that. Like it is so. I think it's so ridiculous that we had a stage that the ledges would not work at certain scenarios, and we're okay with it. Like that. That is really dumb.
Yeah.
But that's in the past. The ledges are a lot more consistent now. I think slants in general are something that a lot of the community are not a fan of, and I think the numbers here kind of show that. Now, obviously, I'm not going to ignore the fact that like Final Destination and Smashville and even Kalos are kind of on that lower end as well, right?
Yeah.
26, 24, 19. But like Lylat and Yoshi's is a lot lower than everything else by, in my opinion, a pretty significant margin. Um, and yeah, I like slants. Shorter characters can abuse it. The corner pressure is harder to um, it's harder to corner pressure characters because they're shorter technically. Obviously, this doesn't matter if you're like Sephiroth or anything. The slant's not going to help you
True.
much, or if you're
Yeah.
just like a bigger character. And it also changes interactions with like two framing and stuff like that. Slants also mess up jab locks if you are going like downward onto a slide. If you go
Yeah.
for a jab lock, the jab lock will just like end them, like make them stand up essentially, and it won't go for the jab lock. There's a lot of wonky things that happen with slants that a lot of the player base, in my opinion, is not a fan of, and especially the top level player base is not a fan of, as you can see.
Yeah, man. And again, too, going back to what you're talking about on Lilat, right? Oh, you look at the games played, and some people have made this like, oh well, it's marginal, right? Like Lilat's marginal, it's okay, and if people don't want to play it, they can just not play it. But again, like when you're talking about the stage list and how we operate, it's like, what is the cost of people, having that as a ban, right, or refusing that to play that stage? Like, what happens there where people are allowed to go to other stages where, like you said, where we may have these big stages here, or we have they don't want to deal with all these like crazy platforms, yet they're forced into a situation where they have to deal with some of these stages that they probably could at least have more balance on, simply because of a wasted slot going into Lilat. And that's a to me is a huge one. I love the triplat layout of Lilat. I always have. It's unfortunate that the edges are so trash and so terrible that people have just lost games, like finals, like they all tournaments off these stupid ledges, man. And yes, there's some cadence to how these things operate, but it is something that is just simply not needed. And I think that it's very clear that a lot of people do not want that in the game.
Yeah, and we've both coached a ton of top players, and there's a lot of it's really funny because there's a lot of players that they'll either burn their bans on Lylat or Yoshi's, or they just know the top players that are willing enough to do it, and they only do it on them. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And then it's
Yep.
just like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to burn my ban on Lylat or Yoshi's because I know that other top player also hates that stage. And like, I just think it's stupid that it comes down to that. I mean, I guess it's like you're getting rewarded for knowledge, but in my opinion, the way like this chart or this, all these numbers, what they're telling me is like the lower you go down this list, the more like volatile the stage feels, right? Because
Yeah.
the slants, in my opinion, very volatile. It adds a bunch of different factors to a bunch of different like situations in the game. You know, off stage because of the two framing factor of the slants. It angles your moves downward, so some of your moves that you couldn't two frame with before now can two frame. But like at what spacing? Like you're adding so much variables, and
Yep.
that is cool and all. But and then on top of that, the thing that I hate the most is how it affects like the corner situation.
Yeah.
Um, but again, it adds a bunch of these volatile variables in my opinion, and then look what's next. Final Destination and Smashville, two very volatile stages as well, and Final Destination being brought up as maybe shouldn't be a neutral pick, should only be a counter pick. I agree with that. Final Destination is one of the most volatile stages in this game because there's no platform to reset on. And
Yeah.
in previous titles, like or at least in like Smash 4, it wasn't too crazy because you had multiple air dodges, but in this game it's like one air dodge and that's it. So
Yeah.
um, Final Destination can be really bad, and so can Smashville because Smashville, since we are going with hazards off, the platform doesn't move from the center. So center stage control is the strongest in Smashville, particularly because,
Yep.
especially if you're a
Absolutely.
zoner, you have a ceiling above you in that platform, and then you force the avenue of approach to be horizontal instead of like that 45-degree or like you essentially make it a lot harder to approach vertically, so you force horizontal approach. And some characters, like double purple pigment Olimar, can shut down horizontal approaches really well, or like make it very very difficult. So I
Yeah.
feel like in terms of like what got banned, it's pretty obvious that the five bottom stages probably got banned the most, and
Yep.
it all came down to like, oh, uh, am I fighting a player that will actually take me to Yoshi's or Lylat? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, ban those stages. Oh no. Okay, I can actually ban the stages I want to ban, and for like for my character or just how my playstyle is.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense. And yeah, that's the thing. I'll keep it a buck. I love Final Destination. I've always loved it. But the thing about it is, it took me a bit to recognize the reason why I love that stage. I would play characters who loved loved the fact that you didn't have a place to land, and more particularly, I think that with that stage, you just have this kind of idea of what this stage is in Smash, right? We all would all joke around with like all Fox, FD, right? Nothing to hinder my play, right? Or even just looking at as we kind of pursue this identity of being a like still being this crazy game, but being a platform fighter, still being part of the extended FGC, right? And this idea of flat stages makes for I do think for some people makes the game feel more official, right? With like no platforms, just a stage. That's it. Um, with that being said, it's very clear that it is very jarring and very polarizing. I don't think it is a starter. It's clearly a counter pick stage, and so characters really thrive off that, right? So that's something that we have to take into account. Same thing like you said with Smashville, with the zoners home, as I love to call it. But yeah, we do have a couple of stages here. Well, while they are operable, like we can play on them, they make sense. Um, it gets hard when you have certain amount of bands, and then you have stages like a Lilac, right? Yoshi's in particular too, right? Not even just Yoshi's edges and all these things, but the fact like you can just die in like 30%, right? To certain characters. Like Mario robs people habitually on the stage, right?
Right.
Habitually, and there's you have this certain meta there with some of these stages that's just a bit too strong in my opinion, and usually it comes down to a honor system, like you said. oh well, these people just don't like Lylat, so they're not going to pick it, right? But if you do add those things in the mix, then you get these kind of crazy counter picks that could happen. And I do think that it would be great to just be like, all right, let's just come to terms. Lylat's got to go. Um, have Final Destination. Look at it for the counter pick that it is. It's funny, even in our sister game Melee, it's the same thing, right? Where they're recognizing how strong Final Destination is, and it's like it's crazy. It's crazy strong that game. So I'd love people to kind of think more with that mindset, right? And focus on tightening up a stage list, especially as we get some of these really strong zoning characters coming into the fold. We're seeing more of the young Robert too. So I think it's something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, everyone will have their opinions. What we say is not law, but let us know what your opinion is on some of these stages. Do you think Lylat and Yoshi should be banned? Do you think Final Destination should be a counterpick stage? There's a lot of things to discuss, and the only way we kind of are able to flesh this out is through discussion or maybe even some experimenting. You don't even have to do like crazy changes, and I know it's all regional stuff too. Some regions allow Lylat, some regions don't. Some regions allow Yoshis but no Lylat, or Lylat but no Yoshis. But yeah, get that data, get the discussion going, and let us know what you guys think about all these stages. And if you guys enjoy the content, let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
Peace.